My parents want me to accept my sister's baby and my cheating ex-husband into the family, but now they'll have to accept the mess they caused by making me angry. 5 years ago, I cut ties with my sister. Gemma is my biological sister, but sometimes the worst betrayal comes from family. She was having an affair with my husband, and they were doing it shamelessly right under my roof. Back then, I had to travel a lot for work, so I wasn't home very often. My parents live in Idaho, and I moved here for work after finishing college. Since I was already well established in a big city, my parents sent Gemma to live with me when it was time for her to start university. She's 11 years younger than me, and 12 years younger than my ex-husband. So, honestly, I thought he would see her the same way I did, as a kid. But I was clearly wrong because one day, when I came home early from a trip to surprise my husband, I caught them red-handed. Or maybe he did see her as a kid, which I find even more disgusting. But the good thing is, at least he's not my husband anymore. I even gave her money sometimes when she ran out of what our parents sent her. Clearly, I supported her a lot, and she didn't just bite the hand that fed her, she swallowed it whole and, well, didn't digest it well. So, yes, it's a wound that's still fresh and will be hard to close. And my ex-husband was a whole different story. He was a colleague at the first company I worked for here, and we quickly became friends because I was new to the city, and he introduced me to all his friends and showed me around new places. After 6 months, we started dating, and after 2 years, we decided to get married. I genuinely loved him. I don't think I can say the same for him. So, in one blow, I lost the love of my life and my favorite family member, Gemma. It was an incredibly tough time for me, and thankfully, at that moment, my parents supported me and were very disappointed with Gemma. So they stopped talking to her for a while, but they couldn't do it permanently because, after all, she was still in college. She was in her 3rd year and still needed money for tuition, money that my ex-husband obviously couldn't give her. So after a few months, she practically begged my parents to forgive her and even tried to contact me, but I didn't respond. My parents did, and they explained the whole situation to me. And even though I wanted to be angry with them, I couldn't, because by then I had already lost so much that I didn't want to lose them too. So I just told them it was okay, even though I didn't really feel that way. Anyway, after discovering they were both having an affair behind my back, I kicked my husband out of the house and filed for divorce, which took a couple of months to finalize. The sooner I got that dead weight out of my life, the faster I could recover. But when it was over and I realized I would never see those people again, it hurt a lot. You can make the decision to divorce because you know there's no future in that relationship, but that doesn't make it any less painful. 5 years have passed since then, and I haven't spoken to either of them. I don't even have anything to say to them. The only people I've kept in touch with are my parents. I haven't even stayed in touch with the rest of my family because, to be honest, I know everyone knows what happened to me, and I just can't stand the shame. I know it's not my fault, but it's still a very heavy burden to carry. Gemma and my ex are still together. They got married 2 years ago and moved back to Idaho. I go back home to visit my parents, but when I do, my parents don't force me to contact her, and I haven't had to cross paths with her even once. They've told me many times that they wish things had been different in any other way, but they have to accept their children as they are. Until now, that was working because everyone was going their separate ways, and that was that. But recently, what my parents asked of me was simply impossible and extremely insulting. Here's the situation. Gemma is pregnant. She announced it a couple of weeks ago, and recently they decided to throw a party to celebrate her pregnancy. Nothing weird about that, until it got weird when even I received an invitation in the mail. Obviously, I decided not to go. I didn't even bother to RSVP to decline because if it was an attempt to make me feel bad or show off their happiness, I wasn't going to give them the pleasure of seeing it. But then my parents told me it was their idea. They also told me they wanted me to accept the invitation and attend for Gemma's sake, because now she was going to be a mother and starting a new chapter in her life. So, according to them, it was important that we accept the fact that we were family, a single unit, and that we should let go of all our past differences, that a lot of time had passed, and that now my ex was like a stranger to me, and we could bury everything. My first reaction was, what is wrong with you? Because it's not like we had a fight over something silly, like a doll or something when we were kids. This was something huge that happened to me. Gemma and my ex ruined my life back then, and I will never forget or forgive any of it. To me, it's like they're dead, and Jesus or Buddha could come out of my sister's vagina, and it wouldn't change my relationship with them. So for my parents to tell me I should just forget everything and show up at their baby announcement party was the most absurd thing to hear. We were talking on the phone when we had this conversation, and I told them straight up, "Are you guys on drugs?" They had made me look like a fool in front of the whole family, and that's why I hadn't gone to any family events in the past few years. I knew they would be there, and I just couldn't stand the idea that they were now together after what they did to me. And in that moment, as I was explaining why that was completely impossible and an absurd expectation, my parents got pretty annoyed. Their argument to defend this mindless idea was that this was going to be the first grandchild in the family, perhaps the only one, and they wanted him or her to be born into a united family home. And wow, that hurt me, because my infertility issues have been something that has increased my suffering immensely in these last few years. My parents know perfectly well that before I found out my husband was cheating on me with Gemma, we had been trying to have a child for almost a year, but it just wasn't happening. And after the divorce, for the last year, I've been trying to get pregnant through IVF with anonymous donors, and I've already gone through 3 cycles, all unsuccessful. It's been really frustrating because the doctors have no idea what's causing it, and it's crushing me because I really want a child. I've always wanted one, and even if I don't have a husband, that wasn't going to stop me from fulfilling my dream. I know I would be a good mother, and the fact that I can't have, that hurts. The whole situation already makes it worse because it just makes me feel like Gemma ended up with everything that was supposed to be mine. I know it's not rational, but it's impossible not to resent her right now. And on top of that, the comment my parents made, that since Gemma will give them the first grandchild, I should just let everything go and show up, at least to pretend I've forgiven them and keep the family peace, affected me deeply. It hurt a lot, so I decided to end the call almost immediately, as I was upset with them, and then I blocked them because right now I don't want anything to do with them. I'm not saying it's forever, but I don't want to keep hearing pleas for me to do it. But since all that didn't make me feel as good as I thought it would, I decided to contact my ex years after everything happened. I finally unblocked him on social media because I wasn't even sure I still had his number. I wrote him a message and told him I hoped he was at least happy now after ruining my life, and that he and Gemma had ended up with everything that was supposed to be mine, and that everyone was celebrating it as if it were really worthwhile. I told him I hated them both and that I hoped they felt every bit of the misery I've felt for the last 5 years. And then, without much thought, I sent the message. But now I regret it because they are about to have a baby. And no matter everything that has happened, I don't want to be the kind of person who wishes bad things on a baby. Because, let's be realistic, the baby is not at fault for anything. And I won't lie, I feel really terrible about what I said because I think it was totally unnecessary. After so many years, I should have let it go. And even after what my parents said, I shouldn't have taken my anger and frustration out on him because it's clear they don't care and it's not worth it. But most of all, I feel like what I said makes it seem like I wish ill on the baby, and there's no way to take it back. So I feel very guilty about that, and I feel like I should apologize. It's been 48 hours since I sent that message, and I know he saw it, but obviously he hasn't responded. So I still have a chance to fix it and apologize, but I'm not sure if I should, because after everything that's happened, it would be very strange to apologize to him. Am I the bad guy for telling my ex-husband and sister that I hope they are miserable now that they are expecting a child? Edit. I didn't mention this in the original text because I didn't think it was relevant, but I understand why other people think I should have said it. So, to be clear, my sister was 18 when she left home. She was legally an adult. I was 29 at the time, and my husband was 32. And I think when their affair started, she must have been around 19. So yes, it was all quite disturbing, but unfortunately, it wasn't illegal. Otherwise, I definitely would have reported him. But she wasn't a minor, so there wasn't much I could do about it. Now she's almost 25 because she was 20 when I found out, and my ex-husband is almost 40. So now no one sees it as weird or repulsive. But hey, let's not forget how it all started. Update 1. Thank you so much for all the comments and advice. I've read everything. Some people recommended therapy for me, and I've read that. I could certainly benefit from it. I won't deny that. Although there are also people saying that my resentment towards them is justified given everything they've done. I agree with both things, but living with resentment is the worst thing that can happen to you. It's like living in a prison created by your thoughts that doesn't allow you to move on with your life. That's why I think therapy might be the best thing I do. But let's get to the update. After 3 days since I sent that message, I decided not to apologize because deep down in my heart I know what I really meant, and I know that just saying I wish they were miserable isn't going to actually make them miserable. And of course, I know for a fact that I don't wish anything bad on the baby, but whatever it is, I don't have to apologize for any of this. But anyway, the message has been sent, and I can't take it back. So the only thing I can do now is hope for the best, and pray they don't take it further. I sent it in a moment of rage, and that's something they should understand. I think if they talk to my parents about it, they'll know exactly why I sent it. Because I sent it the same day I had that last argument with them. And even if they misunderstand it, even if they end up thinking I'm just being mean for no reason, it still doesn't make a difference. I don't care what they think of me. I don't care about them at all anymore, because I think I'm finally done with all of this. For the past 5 years, I've been very careful not to contact these people, not to say anything negative like what I just said, but I think that was just what I needed to do to get it out of my system. So, being very honest, even though it sounds cruel, I feel much better after sending that message, because I know he saw it, and in all likelihood, Gemma did too. And now they know that I hate them. I don't think you need to be very smart to figure that out, but now there's no denying it. I think that's what I really needed. I think I just needed to be a little mean, just this once, to truly vent. And now that it's done, I don't understand why I was so worked up about all this in the first place. I feel much lighter. I feel like I'm not holding back anymore. And despite what they did to me, I was dignified for 5 years until they tried to force their way back into my life. And that's when I finally lost control. I think this is valid, and I think it's justified. Update 2. To put things in perspective, it's been a week since I last posted here, and as I said, I didn't apologize to my ex. I thought by now everyone would be furious about what I wrote in that message, because I assumed my ex must have shown the message to Gemma, and she would have shown it to my parents. And even though I have them blocked, I figured they would surely be finding a way to contact me to demand an apology. That seemed like the most logical thing, and I was mentally prepared for it. But I'm not prepared for what's happening now. It has completely taken me by surprise, because I never thought my ex-husband would try to get in touch with me, much less the way he has. I blocked him again a couple of days ago to close this matter and go back to my life, but for the past 2 days he's been trying to message me from another number. I was going to block that one too, but honestly, curiosity got the better of me because I really wanted to know what he had to say. However, so far he hasn't said anything significant, just been sending messages saying he needs to talk to me, that he read the text, and he thinks we should talk on the phone or meet in person to sort things out. I don't know what he's thinking because clearly there's nothing to sort out between us. We have nothing to do with each other anymore, so I don't understand why he's doing this. I'm in a very strange position. Right now. I don't know what to do. I also don't know what he's trying to do. And I've also started to suspect that maybe he hasn't told Gemma and my parents anything about the message, because everything has been very quiet on those fronts. But since that hasn't happened, I'm starting to think he kept it to himself, which, if you ask me, makes it even stranger. Honestly, I don't know what to say right now. If anyone has any advice for me, please tell me. I wouldn't say I'm panicking, but I know for a fact that something strange is happening. Update 3. Okay, 4 days ago, I posted here about my ex-husband's strange behavior. I was intrigued for a while, but as everyone in the comments told me I should block him, that's what I did. In fact, I had already planned to because I talked to a couple of friends, and they told me this wasn't a good sign. So instead of letting curiosity get the better of me, I should cut the problem off at the root. 2 days ago, I blocked him and thought it was time to move on with my life and leave all this behind. I can live with curiosity, but this morning I got the biggest shock I've had in the last 5 years. I think it was even more shocking than finding out Gemma and my ex were having an affair. My ex-husband showed up at my front door this morning, and I literally had no idea what to say or do. Talk about surprises. This is one I wouldn't expect in a million years. And it took me even more by surprise because I opened the door, and there he was standing. If a terrifying clown had been hanging on my door and fallen just as I opened it, it would have been less surprising. And I think my reaction surprised him too. For those asking how he found me, it's easy. I haven't moved out of my old house because, to be honest, despite the memories, it's a good neighborhood and a convenient place to live since it's close to my office. After I opened the door for him, he didn't even say anything. He just hugged me and started crying. And that was even stranger, because it wasn't at all what I expected. I didn't hug him back or anything. I was in, what is happening here? Am I still sleeping and haven't woken up? Is this a good dream or a bad dream? Mode. I couldn't even process it until he let go, sat down on the sofa, and started talking. Because yes, he took advantage of my confusion and walked into the house as if he still lived there. That snapped me out of my trance, and I told him to leave. But he had traveled from far away, he had to talk to me, and blah blah blah. That's what he told me. He told me he was here because he wanted to make amends for everything that had happened in the past, and that he was very disappointed in himself, and had been for the last 5 years. He said he had tried to come to terms with the fact that I was no longer there, that he was the one who ruined everything, and that I would never come back and that he would have to stay with Gemma, but apparently he could never truly accept it. He told me that for these 5 years, he has tried to convince himself that Gemma was the right one for him, but clearly she's not. And now that they are expecting a baby, he's even more upset than usual. And when he received my message, he just knew that our love story was one that was meant to be. He said he had come all this way not just to talk to me, but to try to convince me to give our marriage a second chance. It seemed very strange to me because the content of that message wasn't exactly something that would make him suddenly want to come back to me. I literally told him he was garbage, that I would never forgive him, and that I only wished misery on him. But he interpreted it as something that said, "I love you. I can't live without you. Fly to my city to apologize and for me to take you back while you're expecting my sister's baby." And believe me, I reread what I sent, just in case when I did it, I was in some kind of trance and had written something else, but it said I hated him and wished him the warmest hell he could find. So for him to show up at my house expecting me to take him back, believing that was actually going to work, is simply absurd. I understood everything pretty quickly. I knew he was only there because he was scared about the baby. Even at 40, he's simply not ready. Some people aren't cut out for marriage or parenthood, and in my ex's case, fidelity. And that's okay. The first part, unless they decide to commit anyway, without being sure, and then ruin other people's lives. Just as he ruined mine, he was on his way to ruining Gemma's too. It's not that I care about Gemma's life, but I want to highlight the pattern he's following. A pattern that not only speaks to his lack of commitment, but also his capacity for deceit that's on another level. Am I surprised by this? Number someone who cheats once will do it again. Anyway, after listening to him, I told him there was no way in hell I would give him another chance. I wasn't going to keep my sister's used underwear. If my sister liked mine, I wasn't going to argue about her fetishes. That now that I had heard him, I had no interest in hearing anything else. I told him he had to leave immediately, that there was no way we were getting back together, and that this was the biggest mistake of his life, coming back believing I would just take him back like that. Because now, I was definitely going to tell my parents, and they would tell Gemma, no doubt, and he would have to face the consequences. I thought he would beg me not to, but he didn't. He just said he did what he thought was right, and that in the last 5 years he had tried to get over me without success. So he thought it was worth trying one more time, and that if I had decided I didn't want to be with him, I must have my reasons. Of course, I do. My main rule for dating a man is that he hasn't slept with my sister when she was 19, but he said he would respect my reasons and that he would leave. Before leaving, he told me he would always wait for me, which, in my opinion, is pure garbage. Just like he waited for me years ago to come back from my trip so he wouldn't sleep with my sister. Right, sure. But anyway, that's what he said. I'm just the one reporting his words. And he told me I could tell whoever I wanted what happened here, that I would be doing him a favor. The whole thing seemed inexplicably strange, unless he wanted this to be the thing that ends his relationship with my sister. Anyway, I knew I had to tell my parents, but I couldn't do it without proof. But he agreed to let me record his words when he said what he had come for. I also decided to send them the security camera recordings showing him entering and leaving the house. Then I wrote a message telling them everything that had happened, everything he said, and the audio, of course. And I made it very clear that nothing happened between us, because I knew that would be the first thing they would assume. I made it clear that we didn't do anything, and that I wasn't trying to get him in trouble on purpose. I was just being honest. Then it's up to them if they want to believe me or not. At the end of the day, I just did what seemed right to me. So anyway, let's see what happens now that it's all done. Update 4. Well, a few days have passed since I told my parents everything. I don't know exactly what they believe, but I know for sure that Gemma and my ex are in the process of getting a divorce. I can't say I didn't see it coming. I practically knew this was going to happen from the moment I sent all that to my parents, but for it to happen so soon was unexpected. I thought Gemma would probably give him a chance since she's pregnant, and that they would probably try therapy or something like that. But I guess they must have already been having problems. Or maybe they think something must have happened the day he came to visit me. And yes, I know, it's what my ex wanted me to do his dirty work for him. But I wasn't going to keep his secret, quote unquote. Maybe it wasn't his intention for me to tell, and that's why he said to do it, hoping I would fall into that trap. Anyway, the right thing to do was to tell, and that's what I did. Regardless of what they actually believe, I know they are divorcing. I'm still not in contact with the rest of my family, so it was actually my parents who told me. They thanked me a couple of days ago after I sent them everything and told me that thanks to all this and the evidence against my ex, Gemma had filed for divorce. And I know they didn't really mean it. They were probably being sarcastic. But either way, I think I've done my duty, and now, whatever happens is their business. It's sad that things ended up like this for all of them. My ex literally destroyed a whole family because he simply couldn't decide what he wanted in his life, and that's truly pathetic. But that's okay, because I know karma always comes back, and I know that's exactly what's going to happen to all of them. Update 5. You could say I've had a crazy few months, maybe more than that. This whole time has been a roller coaster. Some things have been good, others not so much. But that's how it is. Let's start by saying I've been going to therapy, and it has helped me immensely. I found an exceptional therapist who has helped me more than you can imagine. I even felt encouraged to consider IVF again. I haven't tried it yet, but she thinks the stress from everything I went through and didn't resolve might have worked against me. So her help is not only helping me feel better about myself, but also to try again. It turns out, there were things I didn't know about the relationship between my ex-husband and my sister. One of them is that my ex suspected the baby might not be his. So once the baby was born, he demanded a paternity test. The test came back positive, so now he has to pay child support, but the mere fact that my ex asked for a test made my sister have a nervous breakdown and end up confessing that she had been unfaithful. Her excuse was that she was young and didn't connect as well with my ex-husband, but she did with the supposed lover who was close to her age. My parents found out and called me because I hadn't blocked them again, to complain about her. They said they couldn't believe she had fallen into infidelity again, that they shouldn't have forgiven her, that they were very disappointed, and other things like that. At one point, they even seemed to be defending my ex as if he were a victim, quote-unquote. But most importantly, it seemed like they were more angry with my sister because she wasn't talking to them than for what she did. Apparently, she blames them because their intervention at the beginning of my story was what led my ex to try to get me back, which in turn ended their marriage. All this while she was cheating on him and didn't even know if the baby was his or not. So that's how things are. My parents and my sister aren't speaking. My parents are without their grandchild. My sister is with a newborn baby going through a divorce, receiving child support that isn't enough, and looking for a job, and my ex is paying for a child that is his, but to an ex-wife who cheated on him. Luckily for me, they have left me alone after I spent a Sunday afternoon blocking every possible way for them to contact me. Edit. 4th time's the charm. I know that's not the saying, but I'm pregnant, and I'm very happy that my life finally has a different color. I'll make sure my parents don't know anything about this baby. There will be no posts from me about this.